But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to go over a weekly market overview. We're going to cover some charts, some big news items, some things that I'm watching right now, especially as we get close to the weekend. And obviously there's a lot of talk about Iran and even some talks about aliens recently. So we'll cover that and how I think that's going to affect the market. So first, looking at the 24 hours of liquidations, 160 million with longs at 105, shorts at 54. So more longs have been liquidated recently because of the chop in the market. And we did actually get down to Bitcoin below 66K, but it had a nice bounce afterwards. So let's see if it can hold above that. Now looking at the liquidation data here. So from the liquidation heat map, now you can see there is a lot of liquidity to the downside below 66K again, and then just above at 67.5K. So now again, just more chop, but like I said, there is a lot of support near that 66K level. So if we do have one further drop, I do think it'll be for buying. Now, if we go ahead and look at the 1 week here, we can see that there is a lot of liquidity, really, more or less near 65.6K. But I mean, there's no huge clusters that stand out. And we had a little bit that were tagged at 67.4. But to be honest, I mean, it's really anyone's guess here where we're going. Like I said, if we do have one more sweep down, that would be for buying. I do think that it's going to catch a lot of people off guard if we have a further push here. I think 74K probably could be a reliable target. Now, looking at some news items. So let's go ahead and check out Watch Your Guru, because there was a lot of big things over the past few days. So as you can see here, front and center, President Trump orders government to release classified files on aliens, UFOs, extraterrestrial life, and unidentified aerial phenomena. So here's the thing, right? Now, I don't think anyone is second guessing that at least UFOs aren't real, right? Obviously, aliens, that's up to interpretation. But I think the reason for this is because there was so much drama about the Epstein files and there's so much attention on it. And I think some powers higher up wanted to get the attention away. And so UFOs and aliens are actually a great way to do that. And it's funny, if you look at the past, anytime there's talk about Epstein, there's talk about UFOs shortly after. I mean, you can literally look at the past. And so it's kind of funny how that's hand in hand there. But I do think that things are going to get pretty crazy with the UFO stuff because the Epstein files basically blown the lid wide open. So this is the only thing that can really take the attention off. So I'll be curious to see what happens with that. But also, we have the White House pressuring banks to agree to stablecoin rewards and advance the crypto market structure bill. So this is also something that's big because the crypto, the market structure bill is very important. It's seen as a very positive catalyst because it's going to create a lot of adoption in the space, more so from Web 2 companies and also obviously from big banks, institutions, etc. But that's what people are waiting for right now is the Clarity Act, the crypto market structure bill, and they want this to get passed. And banks historically have held off on this because they want to have their way, right? And that was one of the reasons why Brian Armstrong of Coinbase, really stepped down initially. And then now he's trying to discuss and trying to come together to create some type of deal with that. So that's something that we're going to be watching very, very closely. And then also we have Trump saying he solved the affordability crisis. And so that's something good to see as well. Again, as the economy does better, people are going to have more discretionary income, put more money in risk on assets. So that's going to be good to see there. And then also we have Binance stablecoin reserves surpassed $45 billion, now holding 65% of all stablecoins on centralized exchanges. That is crazy to see. But holding that in reserves, I mean, it's good to see at least that they are, backing this one-to-one with customer funds. So great to see at least that we aren't going to have another FTX situation, knock on wood. And then also we had CEO Brad Garlinghouse of Ripple saying there's a 90% chance crypto market structure legislation will pass by April. This is very bullish here. And that he has the inside scoop. Okay, so that's the biggest thing here is whenever you have someone that is literally, talking to the Trump administration on a week-to-week basis, I think that's something to be said where he's saying it's going to pass by April. So that's going to be another catalyst. I could very well see this going from March into April, kind of, all of March being a very bullish month, at least the first few weeks as people front run this. And that would be a great catalyst and get a good buying opportunity, which I do believe we are very, very close to one. It seems like the market is very dry right now. There's not that much activity on CT. And I think that that's going to change very, very soon. And also, we had the UAE government mining $455 million worth of Bitcoin through Citadel. So that is a crazy amount to just mine, but it shows just how many miners they have set up, as well as their interest in the space. And then here we had CME Group to launch 24/7 crypto futures and options trading on May 29th. So that's another thing where I'm talking about Web 2 getting into the Web 3 space, right? A lot of people from TradFi are getting over to crypto, and it's only going to become more prevalent. So just a lot of big things happening. And I do think that obviously, all this stuff is just going to cause more volatility. We did have some other things going on with Iran that I mentioned earlier. So if you go to the remarks channel here, it says Trump says the U.S. has ordered 22 more B-2 stealth bombers. So obviously they want to, stock up, especially if there's going to be continued war going on in the future. And then here he says Congress is set to give President Trump the green light for potential major Middle East war. And this is something that we've been expecting for a while. Even in January, I know that there was a lot of things on Polymarket where it said, when is the U.S. going to strike Iran by, or Israel going to strike Iran by? And it was basically 50, I think it went up almost 50% by the end of January. So you had, these high percentages, and then they went down obviously, but now it seems like things are ramping up again. And so just all of that with Iran also, you could say, tempting the U.S. to attack them and teasing a couple things that they've been writing. And so that's just something as well to watch. And it says, Press Secretary Leavitt says there are many arguments that could justify a strike on Iran. So again, guys, this is just something that's going to continue to build. And in my opinion, depending what happens here, right? Say the Ayatollah is kidnapped, just like the Venezuelan president. Well, that would be very bullish in my opinion. And I think that'd just be a one-day war. But if Iran is attacked by the U.S. or Israel, I think that could drag out. It could initially pull down the markets, but it would be a great buying opportunity. As we've seen in most wars, the week after the strike is one of the best buying opportunities for that. So that's just something to watch out for. Now, let's go ahead and check out the TradFi space. So we can see here that the S&P is up right now at 68.61. So you can see that it is showing some promise, trying to get up higher, but still below that 68.87 resistance. The RSI looks like it wants to curve to the upside here. Now it is bouncing, off this support of 56. If you scroll back, you can see the RSI has bounced off this level multiple times. And so it looks like that is probably going to be another time, maybe just for a few weeks. It may have a relief bounce from there. But I am expecting eventually the stock market to roll over. As you can see that we have been forming that bearish divergence, and eventually we should see that follow through. But again, maybe we have a couple weeks to a month of bullish price action, just like with crypto, and then maybe roll over after that. And you can see gold getting back below $5,000 again. But I do think that gold in general, it's going to be a very good commodity to hold, especially if there's a war, right? Precious metals tend to outperform during wars. And obviously you have the defense industries, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and all these other stock companies that are very good investments. And then speaking of very good investments, oil has been doing amazing right now. And oil is very close to breaking out. And I know that we had a new member that is actually very bullish on oil. If I can find his name, I believe he posted in the stock market chat. Yeah, Sadra. So if you guys look in the stock market chat right now, Sadra is actually someone that joined the group a few weeks ago, and he's been posting about oil stocks, and they've been doing very, very well. And so I think that he told me that he's very bullish on oil and thinks it's going to be one of the best plays of the year. And I could see that, especially if we're breaking out of this downtrend. So this is something I'm watching very, very closely. So make sure you guys, there's always opportunities in the market, right? It was stocks, it was commodities, then now potentially it's oil, right? So or precious metals, I should say, and then it was oil. And so now it's just, where is that going to go, right? We still have energy stocks. I believe that the energy sector is still doing very well. I think uranium is still going to outperform in the future, but oil is going to be a big one that really not too many people are focused on. But whenever there's wars, the price of oil always spikes up, right? And so that's just something to watch out for. And Nico says he also did call the war drone stocks in the stock market chat. So again, this is what we're talking about, right? When there's a lot of chop in the crypto market, there's always opportunities, and you guys always have to be looking. And I do recommend, we all recommend diversifying your assets, not just in crypto, but to stocks as well, because stocks are going to continue to outperform. And it just depends, right? Stocks go through rotations just as crypto does. And so as we had the tech rotation, as we had the precious metals rotation, now we're having the defense, war, oil rotation, okay? Just because it's based off of current events. And so that's something where I think that a lot of opportunity lies. And if you literally follow the money and you follow, where the attention is at, I mean, you can predict a lot of these price movements. And so, yeah, as Nico said, energy rotation, AI, and data centers. So again, there's always going to be opportunities, and we're going to continue to provide you guys those opportunities as well. And then last but not least, we have the DXY. So the dollar has been doing very well, which has also contributed to the crypto market not doing as well. Again, a little inverse correlation there, but it'll be very interesting to see if the dollar continues to rise in price here, continues to put more pressure on crypto, or if we can get some relief here at 98.20, and then we have a pullback, and then crypto follows suit after that. So we'll check a few more charts, such as USDT dominance, Bitcoin dominance, and then some pair charts as well. And then we'll also cover some other metrics that I'm watching. But when we look at the overall market here, so refresh the page, and we can see that Bitcoin is at 67.2K, up 0.6%. Ethereum's down 0.8%, 1950. Solana is up 1.6% to 82.91. And then if we go to the top gainers here, we have Night up 12%, stable 3.7%. Hyperliquid, guys, look at this, 3.3%. Hyperliquid has been one of those tokens, again, that we always talk about, especially Pump as well. I know Nico's very big on Pump, very big on Hyperliquid. But again, when you have revenue generating protocols and you have protocols that are reinvesting into buying their token like Hyperliquid, it's going to continuously outperform when you have these big liquidation events or these, these choppy periods. Then also you have Monero. Privacy is very big. And I believe it was CZ who said privacy is really, the last big narrative that he can see thriving. And so Monero is a great token to watch. I do know some people are looking, I believe it's Zcash if they're looking at that, or there is another one as well, privacy based. But I'm telling you guys, privacy is the way to go. If you have some tokens to diversify, people always ask, what are the top ones? Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Hyperliquid, and probably Monero as a privacy, right? And I think that's because we will continue to see privacy always be a big narrative, especially as more tokens continue to release. I know that there was one more Arcium that I talked about where Tucker Carlson actually interviewed the founder of Arcium, which is a privacy protocol, ARCIUM, that should be having their TGE within the next month or two. And so privacy will continue to be in the limelight. Now, let's go ahead and look at the Fear and Greed Index. So the Fear and Greed Index has continued to be in extreme fear. Now, I do have a lot of tabs open right now, so the tab is not opening, but it will open in a minute. But it's been in extreme fear for a while now. And similar to last year in November, it was an extreme fear from, let's say from November 14th all the way more or less to December 1st. Okay, so we can say about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Now recently, January 31st, it's been over 2.5 weeks, right? So about the same time. And that's when Bitcoin started to find its bottom. Okay, it started to bounce around a little bit, maybe pull back, but that low that it made was the low. So when it first reached that low of extreme fear, which was that 85K level, for us, it would be that 60K level. So what this is saying is most likely what's going to happen is we're going to chop up higher, right? Chop up a little bit higher, pull back, not quite as deep as 60K, and then chop up even higher. So probably let's say 80, 85K, and then really have that final drop. And that final drop most likely is going to lead us to 40K plus or minus. Okay. And that's going to be the area where you're looking to buy. Either that's going to be in August or that's going to be in October. October is the measured move in terms of bear market and bull market. 3 years of bull, 1 year of a bear. So historically, we topped out in October last year. We're going to bottom out in October of this year, if we're just looking at statistics here. So that's something to watch out for. History doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. And so just looking at the Fear and Greed Index, I do think that it is something to keep in mind. And then also Nico saying, look at OKB climbing. Exchange tokens are decent too. Exactly, right? When you have tokens like OKB, exchange tokens, there is still some problems with those. And I do remember that a lot of exchange tokens, whenever they did have their run, they usually run together. So even KuCoin shares, right, up 1.1%. And so you do have a lot of these exchange tokens that could also be good for diversification purposes, but just make sure that they have catalyst plan and they make sure they have a lot of things, a lot of reasons for the pump, either it's revenue generating or something of the sort. So just something to watch out for there. Now, looking at the ETF. So we're going to pull up some ETF flows and see where those are at. Remember, last week, it was majority of outflows with ETFs. And so now let's see what we're showing on here. So I believe Bitcoin and Ethereum, most likely, I think we had another day of outflows. So let's go ahead and refresh the page and we'll see what they show right now. Again, I have just a few windows open, not that many. And so it's just slowing down just a little bit. But let's see if we can go ahead and refresh the page here. Also, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask away. Or if you have a token or a meme coin or any subject we've been talking about that you want me to look at, then or talk about, then please right away. Also, if you want to speak, come up here and speak as well. We are very friendly. So looking at the ETF flows for today, negative 33 million. Now we don't have, I believe BlackRock is still waiting. Yep, still waiting to post their numbers here, but currently we have outflows again from the start of the week. And so, that's not that good to see, but really it's not too high of outflows. And then you have Bitcoin here, again, same thing. And this is just indicative of the uncertainty in the market, indicative of the lack of volume in the market, right? There's not too much going on. Everyone's taking a wait and see approach, especially with the uncertainty surrounding the Iran war, also with the tariff situations and with the government shutdown, with DHS. I mean, it's like a partial shutdown for certain sectors, but still, there's still uncertainty. There's still a lot of things going on that people are just waiting to see, what's going to happen afterwards. Now, again, we're always looking for opportunities in the market. And so let's first go over Bitcoin here. Now, I try to clean up my charts a little bit because I know that they've been a little busy with the EMAs and everything. So try to at least clean them up a little bit. So here with Bitcoin, what I want to show you guys is, this almost looks like a double bottom of sorts, right? It'd be better if it was coming from the top down, but nonetheless, this could be seen as a double bottom. Again, it's not the strongest, okay? But I do like that we've bounced twice so far off 66K. The RSI bounced off a signal line. The stock RSI is resetting below 80. So that's at least a good sign. And so if you ask me where we're going from here, I would say potentially a good chance we could go up to 70K. Now, am I going to make a long call? I'm debating it right now. And so I think DCAing down with clear invalidation being, let's say, either a 4-hour or a 12-hour close below 65K, I think that'd be a safe bet. And so that's something I am very, very close to calling. So watch out for that. And then also, if we're looking at resistance, major resistance here, after we can break 70.74K, then around 73K. Because if we zoom out, you can see when we hit that level, right? It was 73.5, October of 2024. And then also it was the high of March 2024, okay? And so these are clear resistance points, clear points of a reversal. And so if I was going along, I would say taking profit between 72 to 73K would be very advantageous. And I do think it would be good as far as risk reward wise. Now, what I always like to do, because I said here, if my bias is to the upside, just because the stock RSI is reset now, where would I enter? Well, we always use the rule of 4 to 6. So you divide whatever time frame, your higher time frame, you divide that by 4 or 6, and that's the time frame you're looking to enter on. So you divide 24, because I'm looking at the daily time frame, 24 hours divided by 4. That's going to be the 6-hour time frame. Or if I want to divide it by 6, because we say divided by 4 or 6, then that is the 4-hour time frame. 24 hours divided by 6. And so if I go to the 4-hour time frame, we can see the only thing I don't like here is that the stock RSI is getting close to overbought. If the stock RSI was right here and you're oversold, it would be an easy buy. It'd be an easy buy and I'm sure we'd go much higher. But here, as we're getting close, we may have a little more chop, right? And then before higher. Maybe a little reset and then higher there, right? That's what I'd prefer to see. Now, what I do like is the RSI is still somewhat reset at 50. So it's not quite overbought like the stock RSI is. So that's the thing you got to watch out for is what are your lower time frames showing you? You look at the 6-hour. The 6-hour is looking better. It's not over 50 yet. The RSI is looking better, not over 50 yet, crossing over at signal line. So these are some bullish indications on the 6-hour, okay? I would love for the 4-hour to be reset more on the stock RSI. Now, in my opinion, yes, it could go up a little bit more, maybe for another 2 candles. Maybe take us up to 68, right, before a pullback. But that's just something that you guys have to keep in mind, is you always look for those lower time frames for your entries, then you choose your bias based off the higher time frame. And this is something that we talk about as well in the technical analysis course. If you haven't watched that, please do so. The 8-lesson course that we have, it's very, very good. But that's what I'm watching for Bitcoin right now. If we close the daily below 65.7K, next I'm looking for 62.8. Why 62.8? Well, it's because where we closed on that big drop, right? The big drop when we hit 60K. So that's the next level. And then if we close below 62.8, then I would look for 60K as, you know, that being the next support. And then if we zoom out, if we look at the weekly here, this trend line, I mean, this is a very loose trend line, okay? I mean, if we're looking at it from here, it's really not that strong, but I drew it just to have something in case there's some more confluence. I mean, it is something, but again, this one is very loose. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this trend line here. There's only 2 points of contact, so more or less a weak trend line there, but just something I am watching, and potentially we could even, you know, draw something if you want to draw it from this resistance here, and you can try to, you know, bring that up. You could say something like that, but again, it's you don't have multiple touches here, so I don't even want to put that. So that's just something I'm watching, but nonetheless, watch these major support levels, because if this one breaks and we close below, then I'll definitely look for at least 62.8K afterwards. Now, let's go ahead and look at Ethereum. So Ethereum's doing the same thing, right? So you have it almost forming a double bottom of sorts, where you have, you know, bouncing 2 places. But now what you can do, same thing, right? You could DCA long 1930 to 1960, and then you could say, if you want to do a 12-hour close, so you could do a 12-hour close below 1920. That could be your trade right there. Or if you don't like to wait 12 hours because it could go a lot lower, you could say, okay, let's do a 4-hour close below 1920. That would be a very easy risk reward trade here. Okay. And this is what I'm talking about, guys, is a lot of times we like to overcomplicate things, but realistically, if you see, okay, it's closed above 1920, closed above 1920, it wicked below it, but it closed above 1920. Then risk reward wise, if you're taking a trade between 1930 and 1960, let's say your average entry is 1950, then at 1920, that's 30. So that'd be, what is that? 1.5%. I mean, 1.5% plus or minus, right? If you're on 10x leverage, it's only 15% stop. 15% stop to get what? Your first take profit, let's say 1995, because you don't want to do it at 2000 because it's psychological level. 1995, 1950. So that's 45 away. So that's over 2%. So your first take profit's already over a 1-to-1. Then your second take profit is likely going to be much higher. Let's say 2085. And so you see what I'm saying? Like, it really gets into that, you know, from over 1-to-1 to now being 1-to-3, 1-to-4, 1-to-5. And then by your take profit 3, you're probably 1-to-6 or more. And so that's where multiple take profits come into play, and also keeping yourself with a tight stop loss. And tight in the sense of you're on a lower time frame, 4-hour close below, it's not that far away, but yes, it can still wick below, so it could be further. But in general, within 4 hours, you can expect, okay, probably still get out at a decent price at that point, right? So maybe it may be a 20% loss or a 25% loss, but you're still going to be over that 1-to-1 with your first take profit being over a 25% profit on 10x leverage. So again, these are things that I'm watching right now, right? And if you look at Ethereum, honestly, it looks better than Bitcoin. I mean, because the stock RSI on the 4-hour is way down here, whereas Bitcoin's, you remember, was way up here. And the RSI is just crossing above its signal line. And so with that said, if we go to the daily, I mean, the stock RSI is basically reset below 80. And the RSI is bouncing off a signal line. So this tells me, I mean, this doesn't look too bad. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts here. Lawrence says, why 2085 for TP2 instead of the resistance? So Lawrence, for myself, I like to front run resistance levels because everyone's looking at those resistance levels. So it's all about game theory, right? And so let's say 2106 is resistance because the daily rejected here, it closed at 2106. Well, if someone's looking at this and they saw we wicked up to 2106, I'm not going to put my take profit at 2106 because it could only reach, I mean, if you just look here, look at these wicks, look how high they reached. And the second time I got to this level, look, the wicks only barely reached here. So now if it gets this level a third time, you can say, okay, maybe the wicks will only get up here. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just because people front run because they see where the resistance is at. So you know a lot of orders are going to be up here. So probably all those orders aren't going to get filled. So they try to fill a little bit lower. It's the same reason as you wouldn't take profit at $100. You take it like $99.50 or $99.40 because everyone's going to be taking it at 100. So it's probably not going to reach that. You know, so it's just, again, it's game theory, thinking levels deep and trying to front run the next person and actually really focus on where those orders are going to be placed. Nico says, attack the candle body, not the candle wick. more success, or candle body closure where the wick starts, not the candle wick, more success rate that way on my side. Exactly. So yeah, so if you versus the wick, if you actually look at the candle closure, which is 2085 here, I mean, that's more likely to be hit, right? Versus like these wicks. And so, yeah, so you always want to front run, and you always want to see if you can front run these entries. And Lawrence says, would you apply the same concept to entries? I remember when that Solana trade missed entry by like 5.5. Yeah, 100%, right? So entries, for example, if I'm trying to, and well, I'll say this. So yes, with entries, you can give yourself a little more leeway, I should say. Okay. And so the thing with that is giving yourself more leeway with entries is that you again, you could miss the entry. So DCAing is your friend, right? Like if I'm trying to enter at 1936, we may actually front run that. So maybe I'll say 1946 and then down to 1925 to lower my DCA. So that's why people, whenever they post, for example, like myself here, I posted this support range. I didn't just say one support level, because if you look, I mean, price, when it comes down through this range. Sometimes it wicks barely below it, and then sometimes it goes way deep into it. And so if you DCA and you have a range, chances are you're going to catch some of that move. Now, how much? I mean, you could use the wicks here to look at, okay, they went this low before, this one went this low, and you could do a percentage average where like on average it goes below 1.5%. So then you could place your order just above support and then down 1.5% or something, right? Like there's all kinds of strategies you can do, but yes, you would take the same approach. We're looking at the candle bodies and then trying to go a little bit higher and then DCAing down 100%. So, but yeah, anyway, for Ethereum, it does look pretty good here. It does look pretty good. And so I would expect to see some type of positive move after this next daily close here. And then looking at Solana, it's at 83.13. So Solana is doing amazing. And you can see its stock RSI is not quite below that 80 level. And so right now, I'm waiting for that to reset below 80, but still it looks good, similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if we look here, we see the close, it closed at 78.40. And then this close here, if we can see, it was at 78.34. So it literally closed above. So technically you could say that Solana has still been making higher lows, which we talked about earlier, bullish market structure, right? And so now if I'm getting bullish on Solana, I'm looking for 88 to get tagged for a third time. Well, what's the 4-hour time frame? Because you divide by 6 or 4, depending on your higher time frame. And then from there, you can say, well, the 4-hour time frame, the stock RSI, it's starting to get a little overextended, not quite overbought yet. RSI hasn't reached 50 yet. So it doesn't look horrible right now. It doesn't look horrible, right? I mean, we can still see it's a green candle right now. The red candles are when Solana tops out, not quite there yet. And so I do think Solana still has some room to run. Usually the green candle is when kind of things start moving on an uptrend. But yeah, I mean, looking at the 6-hour, it's just starting to curl over. RSI's crossing above the signal line. So I do think that we could start to see some relief rallies. Now, I mentioned the whole thing with the Iran war, and Trump likes to announce these things after Friday, after market close. So that's the only thing, is if a war is announced or if they strike Iran, Israel, US, then we're probably going to drop, right? But I'll caveat that with saying, like I said before, it is a buying opportunity, okay? You buy the invasion, as they say. Now, yes, could things consider to go down? Absolutely. Could Ethereum go back, or Solana, go back down to 76, have a small bounce, and then continue going down here to the next support range? Absolutely. Okay, so, but again, that's where you set your stops. So you buy within here, and you could say, okay, a 4-hour close below 75.50. That's your stop loss. Okay, so it closed below that, boom, I'm out. And then you wait for the next DCA down, 67 to 70. Okay, cool. Then I'll do a 4-hour close below 67. Okay, fine, right? Like these are things you just need to be thinking about. It's just you play them level to level with anything. And so that's where, everyone needs to just be thinking. You play it level to level. You're not trying to predict necessarily the absolute top or bottom. You're just trading based off of risk and reward, based off of probabilities. And so as long as Solana can keep making these higher lows, it's very bullish. And you could even say, okay, your stop loss could be, I mean, here it's a little high, but even with this, right? A daily close below 81.60. So then it's making a lower low. So that could also be something. Or depending how low your leverage is, I mean, you could say a 4-hour close below 77.60. You know, if you're DCAing down your leverage is, say, 3x. But it all depends on where your leverage is at, or what your leverage is at, and then where your stop loss is at as well. And that determines how much you're willing to lose. And you can choose your leverage amount up there. So, oh, what's going on, Chicken Nugget? Nico, level to level. Glad to have you here. Yes, absolutely. So level to level, guys. And that's the big thing is people get caught up in saying, okay, where's Bitcoin going to go from here? Or what's the target by the end of the month? No one can predict that, right? No one can predict it. We can say what we think is going to happen based off where the indicators are at, but it's very hard to predict where Bitcoin's going to be a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, et cetera. And we've seen how unpredictable it can be just over these past few months. I mean, few weeks, really, just how much price has dropped in that short amount of time. No one expected us to drop this low by the beginning of February, mid of February. No one expected it. And so it's just saying, okay, we're just going to play it level by level and see what happens and literally just play the probabilities because we're not going to win 100% of the time. If we're lucky, 75% of the time we'll win. But still, when you're managing risk properly, then those gains will compound over time, right? And then you will start to hit those TP1s, 2s, 3s, then really start to compound those gains as long as you're managing risk appropriately and betting whenever the probabilities are on your side. Now, if any of you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Again, if anyone wants to come up and speak, feel free. Chicken Nugget, I do want to say, awesome stream you had the other day on Mindset Mastery. If anyone didn't watch that, we posted it in the recordings. And Chicken Nugget basically had a testimonial where he covered his background, his trading journey, what he went through, the setbacks, how he learned from them, and then how he still pushed forward and became successful. And it's all a game of progress. It's all a game of learning from your mistakes and consistently getting better. Okay. I'm still learning. Nico's still learning. The whole team, everyone here is still learning. No one is perfect yet, but it's just that strive towards perfection that will reach excellence along the way. So it's just continuing that process. It's never finished, but we get better every day, especially if we're journaling, especially if we're learning from our mistakes. And that's something that we focus on in Data's Alpha Circle. So with that said, Nico, I saw you joined. Again, appreciate you joining as always. We always have good conversations. Curious what you think about the market right now as we're approaching Friday tomorrow. It's Friday for some already, but as we're approaching the end of the week, as we're getting close to that weekend, as Trump historically makes these announcements after the market closes on Friday, whether it's wars, tariffs, etc., what are you thinking? I think we're close to a bottom now. You think we'll have some upside, or are you taking that risk-off approach, waiting till the end of the weekend, seeing if there's any announcements, and then maybe taking some trades Monday or Tuesday?
All right. Well, great points overall. It's a pleasure to join you guys again tonight. Right now, I'm in the thick of things with a few trades. I have a few spot position long that I'm edging with a few shorts here and there, and I took profits last weekend and during the week on a few position, including Kite that I've been speaking about a lot. So Kite has been way volatile today. We hit a good trade on it, a good short. It dumped like 7%, and in a blink of an eye, it just pumped back up like above entry a little bit. So it's very volatile, but that's the game you play on these altcoins. So I want to take a minute first to like kind of go over my last two calls, and then I'll go over what I think of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the ratio charts of these two, because I think it's very important to watch where the environment is going. I do agree that the wars are usually announced like on a Friday or Saturday, and weekends have been low liquidity, kind of low volume, and kind of like dying down a little bit lately. So I'm not bullish on weekends. I'm not bullish on like weekend scams anymore. We're not in that type of environment. And I think at BTC is kind of flipping over. If we go on the at BCT chart, it's looking a bit bearish. Ethereum is looking okay. Maybe it could push to like 2000, but I think it's going to be a big resistance. If we do gain 2000, we could have like a bullish like 2 days and then really push into 2050, 2080. But that'd be the other side of the resistance there. We're in the big range. Basically, the range is from 1900 to 2150-ish. That's a big range and it's not resolved. So when you're trying to take trades in the middle of that range, you have to really zoom in and find the next range and the next trend in the market. So right now it's just going sideways. It's really hard to decipher a position. And that's when all coins thrive. They thrive with pumps and they thrive with dumps. So that's where trader mentality can really make the best of these little intraday moves. So that's what we're doing on Kite. And that's what we've been doing Wednesday. I did call a short on Morpho. And this is up, this went up to like 9%. Now it's only up like 5%. Multiply that by whatever leverage you're using. And I think it's gonna pump back to my N3, but kind of reject there. I've shared my charts in the stream. I've shared my charts in active call chat. So that's also another positive of like joining these live stream because I can really explain my setup and how I'm playing it, and you can really understand all the finer nuances of my trading. So what I'm looking at in this market is all these little coins pumping like kite that we see here. And we have a red, that's really interesting, more confluence to my trade here. Maybe you want to go over the indicator here, CD.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, just looking here, every time we've seen red, we've seen a little pullback in kite, right? And that's historically been the case. Now, obviously, kite has been extremely strong. I mean, it's basically been up only, which is crazy to see in this market. But, I mean, as we see right now, we're seeing a red candle here. And if you do want to try to draw some chart patterns here, well, you can see, let me go ahead and draw here. We have a little ascending triangle. More or less, you could see that
Hmm.
as
Yeah, yeah, there's
right. Yeah. So basically, as we get here, could potentially we reject down here, do one more, and then go down like that. Absolutely, and that's something that I'm watching as well. But yeah, kite historically, when it reaches these red candles, you can see we do have some type of pullback, but the pullbacks again do tend to be quick, right? They do tend to be fairly quick. Now this one pulled back from 19 cents all the way down to 16. So that is a very big move, nearly 20% there. And so if we take a 20% move from here, now take us almost to 20 cents, right? So be very close to be 20, 21 cents, which I know Nico has his TPs near there. So
liquidity there.
go ahead.
It needs to kind of reset. And it's been pumping nonstop. It's kind of shaping into this banana, and then it's starting to lose steam. The next higher high is starting to be lower than the previous one, so it's losing like momentum. And when it's slowing down like this and doing these bearish divergence on 4 hours, 15 minutes, the volume is dying down as well. So I explained my whole thesis. I think it's a good bet. And this could really do another scam week, another 10%. I wouldn't be surprised. But that's the type of conviction I have when I identify setup like this. It's not perfect. We talked about winning rates. No setup is really like above 70% winning rate, maybe 60% if you're lucky. You just gotta control the risk and the position sizing. So here, since it's a very volatile asset, my position sizing is a bit smaller, but they'll let me kind of double down if we really pump and my setup shows up again. Sometimes you got to go twice at it and not let the previous trade affect you. And I found success that way. In the past, I would let the first try just like diminish my morale, and the second setup would really show up and be good, but I wouldn't take it. And my conviction was good. It's just the entry wasn't perfect. So now what I do to minimize that is kind of lower your size a little bit, still get in the trade, even if it feels like nauseous sometimes to do so. And to be frank, if you're calling it for multiple people, you have even more pressure. So right now, I'm just trying to stay cool and go with my plan. And if we scam week a bit more to the upside and really push for that liquidity, I'll be ready to like remain in my conviction. Worst case scenario, the advantage of that is like when you have a couple long spot position, you can offset these little loss with just taking profits on the long. If the market pumps and my short didn't play out, I'll just take a little profits from these long and just cover that loss. So it's kind of helping me manage my mindset and my morale. That's another trick. So
Absolutely.
we're just hedging the position here. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And
Cool.
are you looking at any other tokens right now?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at all the markets every day. I'm on all these different. watch list, managing what's going on. I'm kind of bummed out that I missed Night because there was a perfect double bottom on it a while ago, and totally missed it. It's like a good narrative. It's in the privacy narrative, and from that bottom, it pumped like 50%. So there's a lot of little gems like this on my watch list. I go over them in the portfolio analysis. I've been a little bit more risk off, but I think the AI agent surge is really omnipresent. I think virtual is starting to like curve to the upside. So if we do have kind of a change in the market and Ethereum suddenly pumps above 2000 or 2100 even, that'd be surprising, but that can happen. You'll see these recent winners, Base ecosystem, AI agents, maybe Tau as well, Bittenser, and a few DeFi altcoins that generate revenues really take a flywheel and pump. So that's why you want to not time the market, but be positioned in the market in a various position. So your portfolio should never be considered as like one position. Don't look at it in a binary fashion. Build kind of an ecosystem of positions that work together inside crypto and even outside of it, because we've done some amazing calls in the stock channel that we've been discussing. I mean, war drones, energy, there was uranium, there's oil that potentially could pump. So there's opportunity, and in the altcoins across all markets is just being ready and doing the work and participating in these streams and just setting alerts on your chart, and whenever the setup plays out, not being too shook to take it. You know, my kite setup rang and I was like, oh, am I following this one? I'm like, put your emotion aside, put your ego aside. The result is not that what matters, it's following your process. So I'm following what I've been teaching on stream. It's a break even right now, and we'll just see where that goes, and it's okay wherever it goes.
Absolutely. Great points there. And I want to touch on a few things as well. And we'll go over a few other charts such as Bitcoin dominance and then USDT dominance as well. But to add on to what you said about not feeling like your portfolio has to be all one way or all another way, is there are always going to be tokens that outperform, right? And even if, I mean, in case in point, right? I know it's an outlier, but Aster, right? So we've seen Aster outperform when everything else was underperforming. We've seen tokens like Knight and these other tokens outperform while everything else is choppy. And so there's always opportunities in the market. So just because Bitcoin is choppy or it's not doing anything doesn't mean altcoins can't pump. Certain altcoins can't pump if their indicators are in alignment as well, right? Like we're seeing, Nico was talking about virtuals. I mean, virtuals bounced off of 60 cents and it's been doing great, right? And it's been following this candle color perfectly. When it reached red, it pulled back. Now we're still continuing. RSI is good, stock RSI is good. And so that's the thing where there's still opportunity in the market. Just because you're short one coin doesn't mean you have to be short every coin. I mean, yes, there's correlation if it's a top, let's see, top 5 coin that maybe pulls everything down, but still, I mean, there's opportunities both ways. And so just look for those opportunities, look for those narratives. Nico was talking about with AI. I mean, virtual is getting into AI, and obviously everyone's talking about OpenClaw and all these other AI platforms. And so, yeah, just take advantage of that, and just you'll find opportunities everywhere. And that's when it gets fun, and that's when you can say, oh, okay, wow, there is some type of decorrelation that goes on whenever you have certain tokens outperforming while some are underperforming, and that's the joy of being in a choppy market, is it gives it a chance for these tokens to outperform versus being in a when Bitcoin drops 10%, well, obviously everything else is going to drop as well. But if we have a little bit of chop, then you can actually have a lot more opportunities.
The chop is your friend with the altcoins if you really can assess it properly and manage it properly. Also, looking at these charts, you know that virtual is kind of powerful. You know that aerodrome has strength. You know that Theo was in fashion because of AI. So if, for example, we get some bad news this weekend, I hope not, I hope for peace, but if we get some bad news, there's a massive liquidation event, maybe like 1 billion plus. Well, now it's your signal to open up your shopping spree and get into the spot position long term if your portfolio can allow. Everyone has their techniques for managing their portfolio, but mine is some accumulation at key level. So that'll be a perfect time to scoop up these hype, virtual, aerodrome, and fee generating altcoins, maybe like some of Night because it was strong recently, or Kite, or Kenton CC that was doing amazing. So when your shopping list is ready, your key levels are identified, you've done the course, you've participated in the stream, you know how to stay calm, you know, like, okay, the guys said that it's a good opportunity, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. Well, then you can kind of swim in a pool and get going.
Exactly. And here's another thing too with patterns. So how to know when to spot the bottom, how to know when something will reverse. Well, besides having a great indicator, divergences will tell you when you're going to reverse. Divergences mark all bottoms. Just remember that. And so, for example, when you see here, we're talking about virtuals, and you see when price made a lower low. Okay. So we'll make it green because it's going to be a bullish divergence. When price made a lower low, what did RSI do? RSI made a higher low. And then what did price do? Well, price rose, right? Okay, let's take it one step further. What about when price made a big lower low all the way down here? Where was RSI at? Well, RSI was still making a higher low. Okay, so it told you there's much more strength at this price at 51 cents than there was over here at 62, which almost seems counterintuitive, but it tells you price wants to revert back to the upside. Then when you have that confirmation of the reversal, the candle closed, boom, then you had higher, right? Then also, okay, what else do we have down here? Okay, well, right here, let's say we made a low, we made a lower low, but what was RSI doing? RSI was making a lower low as well, so it matched. Okay, it's not the bottom yet, but what about here? We made a lower low. Oh, RSI actually ended up making a higher low, right? Could that be the bottom there? See, so these are things where you can literally predict where price is going to go if you find those divergences. And they usually match up with the stock RSI, so you can draw them on there as well. But the RSI is very accurate for bearish and bullish divergences, and that's something even ever so slightly. Like when you have confluence, that's key, right? And so even here, when you have price making a higher high, it's going to be a bearish divergence. So price is making a higher high. What's the RSI doing? Ever so slightly making a lower high. I mean, we really got to zoom in on here. But you can see, if I can draw this, if you want to look at the values as well, the value was 76.9, and then the value was 76.81. Now, yes, I know that's barely anything, but double tops or lower lows on the RSI while price making a higher low, I mean, that's a bearish divergence there. And that could be enough. You have the red candle as well. Okay, cool, bearish divergence, and we closed for the next candle lower. Perfect, confirmed. And then we just dropped, right? But these are things that a lot of times people miss because they're too caught up in the hype, too caught up on CT with sentiment about current events, and they aren't even looking at what their indicators are telling them. And so the RSI is really, one of the only indicators you need, honestly. These other ones are just cherry on top, which actually can tell you if you should be more bullish or bearish. Now, when it's green, obviously it's more mixed, like we've seen in the overall market. But then that's when you look at, okay, bullish divergences, cool, formed right here. And then you can go from there, right? And so that's just something where you're looking at these and you're looking at and lower lows, higher lows, and you kind of bounce up there. So that's just something else I want to talk about. But let's real quick go over Bitcoin dominance and then USDT dominance and see what's going on with this. So if we look at Bitcoin dominance right now it did reject off the 50 EMA. I can put the EMAs back up here, and I'll go ahead and put the other two as well. But we can see it's been bouncing. It's been constricting between the 100 EMA and the 50 EMA, okay? So it's been bouncing in this range right here. And so now we're waiting for one side to break. Now, so what that means is Bitcoin can still go down a little bit more, Bitcoin dominance. And we can see that the weekly isn't quite oversold yet. If we go to the daily, well, daily looks a little bullish because of the cross up over here. But again, it's just there's a lot of EMAs up here as resistance. And so if Bitcoin does go up a little bit more, I do think that there's a chance that alts may outperform. Now, what would I look for alts to outperform? I would look for a few things. So one, if you look at total 3, that's going to be total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so if we look here, we can go to the weekly as well, but you can see that total 3 bounced off the 200 weekly EMA, which was bullish. Now, also, if you saw on the daily, you can see it's making higher lows. So low, higher low, right? If this continues higher. Now, why did I draw these big circles? Well, these big circles are where it bounced off the 100 weekly EMA. So it's telling me that this 100 weekly EMA, when combined with its normal resistance here, or support here, it's going to turn resistance at 800 billion. So this $800 billion level, keep an eye on this. This could be by the end of March that we have this, so like by April 1st, maybe we might maybe up here. Then that's going to be your chance to short it again. And that's still going to be a lower low, right? As far as bearish patterns. And so keep an eye on this $800 billion level. It's psychological. Also bounced off of it before in the past. It's been a big area of confluence. And then also we have the 100 weekly EMA, which has historically been support, just like the 50 weekly EMA was for Bitcoin, now turned resistance when we got up to it. And so I think this could definitely be something as well, because if you look at the RSI on the total 3, it's basically oversold. Where's the stock RSI? It's way oversold, right? So this tells you we are overdue for a move higher. Whether that's going to come in the next week, 2 weeks, let's see. But I think once this whole Iran situation gets resolved, I think that's going to be a good catalyst. Also, remember, we have the crypto market structure bill. They were saying it's going to be, Ripple CEO was saying it's going to be passed by the April 1st. And so we have all of these different catalysts that could end up pushing us much higher. And then at that point, what's the next catalyst going to be? Well, potentially Jerome Powell getting out of office, I believe May 15th, around there, May 19th, somewhere around there. And then depending if Kevin Warsh wants to cut rates right away, we'll see what happens. He's not big on QE, quantitative easing, so that may cause a little bearishness, may push us down a little more until August. I've seen some smart traders call for August being the bottom, and then other smart traders call for October to be the bottom. So let's just see what happens. But yeah, that's what I would expect to happen here is some more chop, eventually higher. 800 bill will be a big resistance level. Chicken Nugget says that would also coincide with Bitcoin resistance being 80K if we get to 800 billion. Yeah, wouldn't that be something, right? So very, very interesting there. So that's something I'm watching for the total 3. Now, USDT dominance, another big one that is good for dictating flow into or out of altcoins and Bitcoin. So it's getting close to that 8.2% level. We did wick to it and then we rejected. And so that could very well be the top here. I mean, if you look at the RSI, it is way overbought on USDT dominance. I mean, it's at what, 78? If we draw a horizontal line here, when was the last time it was this high? I mean, last time it was this high was 2022, right? So, I mean, could that mean one more huge drop? I mean, this was a absolute crazy drop here, or I should say rise, but drop in alts, afterwards. That could still happen. And that would be probably a war invasion when that happens. But you can see how close we are to a top. I mean, even in the past, right? This level that we're at now is historically near where tops are made for USDT dominance, which do mark bottoms in Bitcoin and alts. And so that's something I'm watching closely. Also, the stock RSI looks like it wants a double top here. So that's something interesting to see. And then if we look at the daily for USDT dominance, daily's a little bit more mixed. RSI is rejecting off the signal line, while stock RSI is still curving to the upside. So that's telling me probably more chop, saying potentially we could have a short-term downside, but eventually we could still rise a little bit higher. And so that's, not as reassuring as I would hope. I think that the daily stock RSI probably still has to go a little bit higher, which that would probably be a double top here near 8.65% and then bring us a lot lower afterwards, which would then, with the weekly, that would line up with that. And so, yeah, I think the daily still needs to get a little bit more, still needs to be a little bit higher on the stock RSI before we can start looking for a big reversal to the downside. But other than that, I'm trying to think if there's any other charts that are good to look at. Let me see. Oh yeah, interesting. Chicken Nugget posted the fear and greed index, about the trend line on the fear and greed index. Very, very interesting there. Could be, yeah, once Nico says 20 also looks like resistance in the short term. Once we are staying steady above 20, I think the bottom's in. Yeah, so the whole thing with changes in a trend, right? Like let's say we're looking at Bitcoin. So the whole thing that people like to look at with changes in a trend are eventually closing above. So the RSI crossing from the upside to the downside, and then once it crosses below that overbought level to the downside, okay, that's the top basically. And then same with the bottom, right? Once the RSI crosses back above from oversold up above 30, then usually that marks the bottom wherever it crossed up from. And so, and this especially on higher time frames. I mean, you see here when the RSI crossed from the top above 70 back down, if we scroll up to price, and mark the top, right? And so it's a good little rule of thumb. You can see when the trend is officially changing, the RSI here crossed back below, and that was pretty much the top. for that moment. So yeah, so as Nico's saying, if you're looking at the fear and greed index, and you guys were saying about this trend line here, and he's saying get above 20. So 20 seems to be resistance, right? You can see it's bounced, and then now it's going to act as resistance here. And so you could say this is saying once we cross back above 20, it could be seen as like the RSI, a little oscillator. And now people are starting to really get more confident, and now that sentiment is going to sustain the run higher. That's all it's saying. But when you're in this extreme fear and you're say, let's oversold, if we're talking about it in relation to an oscillator, you could stay oversold for a while before eventually coming higher. So that's why, again, sentiment is good to look for in a sense that when you see here, when it basically crosses above, it marks the bottom temporarily, then here officially marks the bottom afterwards. And so it's just good to look at that. Let's see. Chicken Nugget says Aster and Pengu. Yeah, let's go ahead and check them out. So we have not looked at either yet. So for here, okay. Oh yeah, Aster's getting a little heated. So what I would say with Aster, let me just go ahead and quickly draw some SR lines. So, okay. So here's what we're looking at for Aster. So it's right above that 50 EMA on the daily, which is good, but the RSI doesn't look good, crossing almost below signal line. The stock RSI looks like to be crossing below as well, and candles are overheated. Now, if we go to the 4 hour, 4 hours almost the same. Stock RSI is almost overbought. Candles aren't overheated, so at least that's a positive if you're long Aster. And then we do still have some EMAs, like the 4 hour 200 and 100 EMAs. So I think if you can get it near 66 cents, that'd be a great level. And you know, besides that, you could say, well, maybe have this trend line here. You could watch for it to break, right? This little trend line. So that could be something as well, depending if you're watching that or not. And you could even say, I mean, this is a stretch, but you could say it's a parallel channel as well. If you're drawing like that, and then more or less like that, right? Like you're in a little downward channel. And so if it can break above that, you could say a 4 hour close above 72 cents. That'd be fairly bullish. And it'd probably do something like bounce off of it and then go higher, if that's what you're looking for. But until then, I mean, it's in this little downward channel here. So you kind of wait. Either A, again, gets back to 67 if you want to buy it there, trying to play the bounce, or if you want to wait until it gets down to 66, which resistance prior, so hopefully should be support, especially combined with 200 and 100 EMAs. That could also be something. But yeah, for myself on Aster, I wouldn't be interested in buying it right now. No. I would at the very least, I mean, if you want to buy it at the 50 EMA on the daily, you could at 69 cents, but I'd probably wait, be a little more patient around 66.7 if it comes back down there, especially considering where the indicators are at. And then Pengu. And by the way, here, let me just go ahead and link the chart as well. Just link the chart so you have it. And then Pengu could be, that one again is another interesting one. So yeah, Pengu has not been the best. I mean, yes, it's kind of bounced when we have these X's, but I mean, if you look at the chart here, I mean, this is just, I mean, it's a sad chart. I mean, it's just making, like, I mean, just look at this. It's just making lower highs, right? Lower highs. And so, yeah, like I would not even, I mean, if we look at the indicators, RSI looks okay. Stock RSI is still curving down. I mean, I would not be interested in buying Pengu until 006. 006 would be my level. I would not even think about buying it right now. Like is it resistance bouncing off support? No, I wouldn't say so. Yeah, like Pengu is just too sad for me right now. If you want to say maybe we're starting to make higher lows now, you could say that. Fine. Right? That's something. But, yeah, it's just, I mean, if we go to the 4 hour, the 4 hour looks okay with the RSI close to its signal line, stock RSI still below. So the 4 hour doesn't look bad. 4 hour doesn't look as bad. But yeah, I would love to see the 4-hour cross above its signal line. It looked like it's been a resistance in the past. So I'd like to see a cross above that. And then we do have a lot of EMA resistance here, which is something to watch out for. So a lot of resistance between 008 to 0081. So if we can close above that, good. But yeah, it's going to need to, it has some work to do. Let's say that. So if I was a bet man, I'd say 006. I just wait if it comes back down there. Let me go ahead and copy this as well. No problem, Chicken Nugget. Anyone else have any questions or want to come up and speak? Please don't be shy. Ask away. Be more than happy to answer. Even about life, health, anything. It doesn't have to be about crypto. Remember, these weekly live streams are for you guys, right? Whatever you want to talk about, we're here. So I'll give another couple of minutes if anyone else has anything to say, or if Nico has anything to say as well, let me know. But
And if any questions comes up to mind, I think we've had a lot of success with the new guidance channel, and there's Mindset Mastery just underneath it. So do ask away and do a little weekly follow up for yourselves. So I think Pablo's posted in there recently. So just follow up after a few days. Tell us how it's going and what you're doing to improve, and let's get it. Let's get after it. I mean, day after day. That's all we can do.
absolutely. And Lawrence is saying, wouldn't this be much more tame, though, about QE? No QE, but still dovishness with rate cuts. What's macro tension is a real thing that needs to calm down. Yeah, I could see potentially. I mean, there's going to be a balance between rate cuts and obviously QE starting if it does. And so I think that interest rate cuts are going to tame everything down. I think it's going to at least stop the bleeding per se for bearishness. But eventually QE will be the lighter. That's going to, be the light that sets off the match. And then from there, it really takes us off. So just being patient and seeing what happens. People know that Kevin Warsh isn't historically QE positive, but he will do it if it doesn't affect inflation as much and if everything lines up. So that's something to watch out for. But yeah, as Nico said, the guidance channel, loving to see the activity in there. I mean, it's very, very active. So please, if you have any questions, post them in the guidance channel. We'll be more than happy to answer them. But with that said, that will conclude the stream. Again, this is being recorded, so I will post this within the next 30 minutes to an hour. So make sure if you guys missed it or you want to rewatch it, it will be there. And as always, appreciate all of you. And we're definitely, excited with what's to come. There's a lot of big changes. Last question, Chicken Nugget says, I know this is a harder question to answer, but how do you feel about the 4-year cycle? Clearly worked out again in 2025, so far in 2026, but do you expect us to continue with the cycle or maybe break it this coming next cycle? I would say if it's not broke, don't fix it. So the 4-year cycle, in my opinion, will continue to play out, which means probably October bottom. And so until that shifts, right, then we can say, okay, let's start changing the metrics. But if it still is playing out just like it did October top, then I wouldn't change anything. I would say let's just wait and see. Now, again, I know some people have said August is going to be the bottom. That may be the case. But I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see. Again, level by level is how you play it. And you just keep doing what you're doing until it doesn't work anymore. And that's all about being a trader. You adapt to the market. And if something's not working, then you shift to something else. And so, for now, I would say the 4-year cycle is still intact. I think that a lot of arguments we had in the past was Trump's adopting it, the U.S. government's adopting it, institutions are buying ETFs, etc. But that still didn't matter, right? We still topped out in October. And so if that doesn't tell you that the 4-year cycle is still in effect, even when we have the president of the United States talking about crypto 24/7, or at least his administration talking about it 24/7, institutions buying, countries buying, ETFs, everything, and we still couldn't break the 4-year cycle, kind of tells me, okay, it's pretty strong. And so I'm going to just keep that set in stone until proven otherwise. Yep. Stick with it's already working until proven otherwise. Exactly. So that's the main thing with that. But yeah, I'll keep y'all updated. If we see anything changing in the market, if we see bottom start to form, which I do think is going to happen very soon, if it hasn't happened already, at least local bottom, and then give you some trades from there. So I may do some trades very soon, either today or tomorrow. And like I said, there's going to be a 2.0 version of Data's Alpha Circle coming very soon. We're going to revamp the group a little bit more. We're going to have a lot more things coming. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be many more announcements. We're going to make another one probably tomorrow. and you guys are going to get a lot of good content. And so just as a thank you again for being so loyal and just for supporting us as much as you have, we're going to continue to provide more content every single month and make sure you're all having the best time possible and learning as much as you can along the way. So thank you all so much again for watching. Again, I will post the recording in a minute, within the next 30 minutes or so you guys can watch it afterwards. But have a great day, have a great night wherever you're at, and we will talk to y'all soon. See ya.
Thank you, everyone. See you.